TARIK Day, and tonight's class is on, welcome everybody. And I give honor and respect for you having me here. Tonight we're going to deal with God and some understanding. In the nature, the principle is that we're going to deal with the subject matter of the political motives for suppressing God. And so we're not going to go into root because you are already erudite in those areas. But we're going to deal with some definitions, denotations. I want to read some excerpts from one of my lesson books that I did for my children in '84. And it deals with the etymology. God is not really the name of the supreme being. It never was. And its use, particularly in modern or contemporary language, it's actually contemporary. It's used. The supreme being has many names: Thoth, Parabrahms, Allah, Jah, Yahweh, etc., etc., etc. God is a contemporary word, and it's really not a name. It's an act of doing. You know, like I say, run. It's an act. God actually means to invoke, to call, and to implore, and it's derived. That's like the Gothic. It's from go, gu, etc., and that comes from Huda, which is Sanskrit. And so, like when you see even like some of the ancient Asiatic women with the name Huda, that actually means the process of invoking. But we all know that the divine principles in all ancient societies and all ancient civilizations is actually feminine and not masculine. There really are no masculine gods. That's fiction that was created after the Inquisitionists took over the world. So just like our concepts of what we think God is are wrong, so are our concepts in how we view language. Now, the political motive as to why they suppress God is so that we wouldn't know God. You hear these terms all the time, right? And so when we look in the Heliotech, we often hear or we read this statement. It's vital. This statement is very, very important, and you should analyze it. And you have a greater advantage than many people because you all know how to read. Knowing that most people don't know how to read, they see this and don't know what they're looking at. And so when you teach, when you're learning etymology, you're learning the atom or the mother of the word, which is etym, which you already read. And etymology is the study of etymon. And so when you want to look at etymon and etymology, you want to look at etymon in the same nature as you see a zygote, egg, atom, all same structure, universe, university, positive, negative, yin, yang. So you're dealing with, that's a nucleus, right? Right? That's the principle of also what we know as atom, right? Now, in stories for our little children, you know this principle as atom. That gives them something to relate to. The processes of the protons, neutrons, electrons, etc., revolving around the Son of God that creates life, that's the maker of life, being the smallest block, or the first man. But you know, man, mas, comes from actually maternity, paternity. Pata, father, comes from the process, not a name, the process of maternity that means mother's first. So you gotta understand, so anything comes here can only come through a feminine principle. That's the fact of life, reality. So we know that that process is called God really means it's an acronym. God, generally invoked in religious order, is really a process and not a name. But because they don't teach people the truth about language, the masses have been geared into thinking that that was the name of the Supreme Being. And yet it is, but it's the process of the Supreme Being. Because the Supreme Being that governs civilization is the Word. I want you to look at the process. First, there was the Word. And the Word was with God. They go together. That's conjunct. And the Word was God. It was a process. First there was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Therefore, God is the Word. You get it? Of course, they're not going to explain to people, because what it means is it's to invoke, to call upon, to implore. So what do when you invoke, call upon, implore? Exactly. So when you speak a word, it's a prayer. And it's powerful too. That's why it's important to understand language. That's why they say, don't ask for stuff you don't think you may not, almost didn't, maybe not want. You might get it. Now we know the brain operates, the human hominid emits particulates. So when you think, you actually emit particulates. Because we are at a weaker stage and we've fallen spiritually, we don't recognize that we create particulates, even though we know that we do. We always know that we do, but we doubt that we do. So therefore, what we think we bring about, we be. Because the small particulates, over a period of time, concentrated on, begin to manifest the same way a woman produces us. Because the mind is a womb. And that's patterned after a woman too. Everything that she made is really operates like she operates. And you have to understand that, really. Because life is really simple. If you go to the element, if you go to the base of it, you'll understand everything else about it. And this is my purpose of approaching etymology from this angle, mainly for my children. I did it actually for my children, although they were too young to really understand it. I always hit them with that, so that as they grow older, it might come back to them, knowing that they will be dealing with the political pressures that we've been dealing with. Because us being old age, we've seen things that they won't see. We've experienced things that they won't experience. And one of the keys in the art of war is to remove important points of reference. And this is how miseducation is actually done. Like say, for instance, like most people, you'll see a lot of scholars talk about miseducation, but they never identify the method. They'll say they did this and they did that, but they will never come to the keys so that one can re-educate themselves. So like when the Inquisitionists were burning literature, bulk scripts all over the planet on a massive scale, generally that's accepted as the process by which they were forcefully making the world illiterate, particularly the Asiatic African nations. Key was, they really didn't have that power and they're really not that smart. But it makes it look like this thing is so massive, how are we going to come out of this? You know what I mean? The deal is to have taken key reference points, and it sends the equations of everything totally off. Just like you alter geography, like when they altered the Mapamundi, and so people lost concept of the grid work on the planet from the stars, and therefore they don't know where they are even on the planet. Then you move to grid work of the Edlin, or the mother of the word, and then layer with connotation, so people disrespect the denotation, which is absolutely the mother, and only the mother, and only the real, and only the true, always the true. It never does the connotation